For freshwater aquariums, this is the pinnacle, and this, depending of course on what your taste is. For saltwater aquariums, this is the pinnacle, and this, of course, depending on what your tastes are. But for monster fish, somehow this has become the pinnacle of fish keeping, and this. I like to call it the 3 C's. So I've got a concept, I've got a composition in mind, and then I get creative. So my concept is clear. I'm looking to do a semi-biotope of a Dawson River system or the Fitzroy River system, a backwater with timber, emerge grasses, water lilies, and pretty much a open water surface except for those lilies to provide plenty of surface area for the Saratoga to swim. Composition is really important, and it's something which is particularly overlooked in marine aquariums. The fact that this aquarium is viewed predominantly from this part of the shed, it makes sense in my mind to use a triangular composition. That's one where the hardscape material and most of the planting is pushed to one end of the tank and it slopes down towards an open space. In aquascaping these days, usually you'll see driftwood, which are the roots of a tree or a shrub, actually projecting up on these amazing angles. What I'm going to go for is a more natural effect where the trees have died from floodwaters and their roots and their trunks have been left in a standing position. I've already installed some egg crate barrier around the side and the rear of the aquarium. I've installed it on an angle so if the fish does land on it, it'll flip-flop its way back down into the water. And I do have to install some some net type doors around the front, but then of course it's going to be a lot easier to do that after installing the aquascaping. So that's too tall for that spot. So that's not going to work. Even though it does kind of look like another tree is growing over the top of the original larger dead tree. This timber's great, but the reason why I like this timber is because of this curve sweeping out here. So this is a left to right piece of timber, but my aquascape, my composition is a right to left composition. So this it's just not going to work. And I'll save it for another tank someday. I don't mind the way that this is going to create some barrier for some elevated substrate. Then I get this serpentine effect through here. This is leaning in the right direction. It looks like it's part of a multi-trunked tree that has died, and this is just one of the smaller offshoots. This piece here has got a pretty severe cut on it, but it's been obscured by coming up against that tree. So you don't want to impact on the swimming space of this fish because it is a big fish and this is a shallow tank. I'll bring you around so you can see exactly where I'm at. Get out of here, bird brain. The line going down there, so you can see the triangular composition I'm trying to achieve, a right to left. You can see how I've got a nice vase shape going on with these taller timbers. Just wanted to point out something about, excuse me Reggie, about this little guy here which I've been messing around with. I'll show you if I put it a bit straighter how it ruins the effect. And all of a sudden it doesn't look right. It's not a nice sweeping flow downwards, it's actually jarring against the angle that's supposed to be coming down from the taller wood coming on down. So I hope that makes sense to you guys. Whereas something like that, there you go, something like that is much more sympathetic to that angle. Get yourself a drink, whatever you may be enjoying at the time. I've got myself a Canadian Club whiskey, which I must admit is a little bit too smooth and mellow for my liking. I'm a bit more of a Scotch kind of a guy, or a Tennessee whiskey, occasionally a bourbon, and occasionally an Irish. Let's face it, I love whiskey. Anyhow, get yourself your chosen drink, and not a cockatoo, get out of here. Get yourself your chosen drink and just sit back and just look. Just look how it all fits together, and make sure that you're happy from a few different angles before, in my case, I'm going to actually fix it in position to the base of the aquarium using two-part epoxy. Really important to make sure that the chosen wood doesn't float. And the usual way of doing that is to soak the timber in a bathtub or some sort of a big pond or something like that for, well, basically until it sinks, but that can take weeks. Reggie, get off. Bloody idiot. Pretty easy to see. I've just packed in some rocks, fill up between the rocks down low and the timber with spray foam. We come around here, so this back area here is going to be all filled with substrate, and then this area here will be mounded up with soil and then sand on top. But I need to build up the height of these planted areas through here. I've had a change of plan. I'm going to do a mass planting of dwarf hairgrass all the way through the back and wrapping around here. So Power Sand Special, 80A, too expensive for me, so I'm going for good old scoria, which to be honest with you, I think is exactly the same thing anyway. What I'm trying to get is this kind of loamy soil, the type that's mostly free of organic matter. I don't want the mulch on top, and I'm trying to avoid a lot of the roots. So I'm going down a little bit deeper so I can get the actual loamy soil without all the organic matter. George, let's go. I've put probably between 1 to 2 inches, or actually probably a bit more than that, 2 to 3 inches of the garden soil on top of the scoria. Because I was a bit worried about the mud silting up the scoria underneath, I did put down a layer of shell grit first. And this is the shell grit that I used. It's basically just a fine bird grit used for pigeons and for aviary bird keepers. Now, if you have very hard water, you may want to choose something else to block up the scoria. Not block up the scoria, but prevent the soil from just slumping down within its cracks and crevices. Maybe just a coarse sand. But I have very soft water, extremely soft water. I have no minerals in my freshwater source whatsoever. So I'm happy to have a good layer of this shell grit down underneath the soil, which the roots might be able to access and which might slowly dissolve some minerals into my fresh water. A lot of what I do, I guess you'd call DIY, and that's just because I do build such large tanks and I haven't got a very big income. But I'm lucky to have a farm upon which I grow cut flowers and other nursery lines. And so things like fertilisers, soils, sands, are reasonably easy for me to come by. What I'm going to use as a base fertiliser for the carpeting areas is an Aquascape product. It's a slow release granular fertiliser. And what I'm going to do to target the areas where the waterlilies and the rushes are, the reeds, is to use this product here, which is an Aquascape aquatic plant and water garden tablet. These are the tablets that I've used
when growing water lilies in ponds inside the pot. And as you can see, no, it's not birdseed. As you can see, they're pretty much the same prill, but they're just formed with some sort of a coating into these hard blocks. Originally I wasn't going to plant a carpet of grass as such. I was just going to go with the emerge grasses down the end, the water lilies. But then I realised that it would be very bare underneath. Although I like the look of this coarse sand, I do feel like it needed something more.
Remarkable lake in the front of the local education campus. So all I try and do is get some of this grass out without falling in. I am aware of how much of an idiot I probably look right now, but that's just the kind of thing that fish keepers do. And I'm sure I'm not alone in doing this kind of ridiculous thing. Maybe I am. Do you do these kind of ridiculous things, or is it just me? Coarse sand on top of the scoria, almost doing stem cuttings, very messy stem cuttings. This is not going to be, it's not going to be pretty. There's not really any way of making this pretty. They're Australian native lilies, and they're called Crinum or Crinum pedunculatum, also known as a river lily, a swamp lily, or even a beach lily. And it's an emergent crinum, unlike the ones which you might be more familiar with, such as Crinum calamostratum, which is an aquatic lily. These live on the banks of the rivers and streams and grow up and out of boggy areas. One thing I'm not completely certain about is whether or not it will tolerate growing with a reasonable amount of its trunk underwater, which is the reason why I'm sort of sticking it on this driftwood here, in the hope that a water level around this depth won't be too much for it. I'm thinking that if I was to plant it in the substrate there, I don't know if the trunk will actually rot or not. So I guess this is a bit of an experiment. I guess with this smaller one, I could plant it back here with its roots in the substrate, which I might do just like that, and see if that grows okay. It's very interesting. This one here, we could just sort of bed in with some sand and hope those roots make their way down. I think this might be okay. These lilies I took from the lake outside the university when I was getting the flooded grasses. They're not, I don't actually know what species they are. They're not the common blue flowering weed water lily from South Africa. You can tell by the reddish coloration. Not actually sure what it is. Looks quite pretty. I got quite a few of them. I'm going to plant a clump just here to spread out this way, and also some back here to spread out. Clearly the leaves on the surface of the aquarium will block the light getting down below it, so I'll have to do some strategic pruning as they grow. When you buy aquarium plants, you've got two choices. One is to buy tissue culture plants that are sold to you in tissue culture cups in agar. They are, well, I believe there's mixed responses with them. I
I've only used them in the past for some carpeting plants, and I've never used them for plants such as stem plants or anubias. And I believe with certain plants such as crypts that you can have issues with the plant melting. In this case, I've bought dwarf hairgrass in pot format, and it's just contained within this rock wool. So what I'm doing is separating it out, just sort of tease it away so the roots and the crown come with the leaves. Now, I'm not 100% certain, but I'm pretty sure that this hairgrass is not found in the same habitat as the Queensland Saratoga. With the lilies and the grass covering the surface, if that's the only planting I had, I'd have a very bare area underneath. And I feel like by planting these areas here with the dwarf hairgrass, that it will blend the emerged grasses and flooded grasses down into the water, and it will look a bit more seamless and natural. So I'm okay with it not being a biotope as such. I still think it's going to look pretty amazing by the time it all grows in. I'm planting these about 5 centimetres apart. Well, maybe a little bit closer than that. Obviously, the closer you go, the faster the hairgrass will carpet the substrate. I'm pretty sure I might have to install one of these Bioscape LEDs coming out from here also to illuminate this carpeted area at the front. I don't think I'm going to have sufficient light just from the LED pendants at the top and the Bioscape pendants at the rear. I'm tying this moss to the very bottom of the branches, just where they make contact with the water. Because my thought process is it'll give them the option to grow downwards into the water, but also up along the branch itself. It's a terrestrial moss. I got it out of the floor of one of my greenhouses. It's a really unusual fern. It starts out with almost juvenile foliage, which is more rounded, and then as it matures, it develops this kind of elongated foliage. I like it because it's not too lush. It's leathery looking and dry, so it won't look like this is a tropical jungle, because it's not supposed to be a tropical jungle. Now this would be about the time in the video when I would introduce Samson the Saratoga into his new aquarium, but unfortunately I'm not going to do that. I don't mean to string you guys along, but I'm a little bit worried for 3 reasons. The first is this is a brand new aquarium, and I would like to try and get the bacterial biodiversity boosted, and I hope to have done that by introducing some of the grasses and the lilies from the local lake. But also I want to make sure it cycles properly and the nitrifying bacteria have certainly built up. I'm testing my ammonia and my nitrite readily. Hopefully to help that along is the plant growth in the aquarium, and to try and boost that also, I'm supercharging the carbon dioxide into the aquarium. This is not just a bubbles per second, this is a steady stream that I'm introducing into the pump of the filtration system. And lastly,
I want to make sure that this tank is secure for a potentially jumping fish. And so I still need to build the screens or doors that go on top of the aquarium up there. And I've been not procrastinating, but I've been umming and ahhing whether or not to use glass or screens, and it's been toing and froing through my mind. So I'm going to take this project seriously, and so to do so, I just need a little bit more time from you guys. If you've got this far in the video, thank you very much for watching. If you're a regular viewer of my channel, but haven't as yet ticked the bell notification, just go ahead and do that, and that way you will be notified promptly when the next video comes out, the video where I actually am introducing Samson the Saratoga. If you're new to my channel, thank you very much for watching. You can also tick that bell notification and subscribe, but I'm going to pop a video up here and a video down there, and these are the two videos that would get you up to speed in where this project began. Thank you very much again. I'm Adam the Australian Aquarist, and I'll see you next time with Samson the Saratoga.